Hi, everybody. Welcome to another session of Come Cloud with Us. I'm your host, Abdul Kazi, and I have my co host, Chris. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hello. I think we have more than just a co-host. I mean, we got like this wonderful crew of folks that are just raring to tell us about something from Microsoft Ignite, right?
Yeah, I heard what Ignite, like, yeah, interesting,
So
right?
honestly, really, really super excited to just bring this type of event to everybody. We've got a slew of folks here. Want to just say thank you all for joining us and kind of helping us put together the session. We got some fun stuff in store for you. Go ahead, back to you, Abdul.
Thank you. Yeah, with that being said, let's get into the introductions. So, first off, the April Edwards. And the reason I call her, that's her Twitter name, so I kind of like it.
It's allowed. It's allowed. Hey guys.
Hello, hello.
So, go ahead, introductions. Just something about you, where you live.
I live in the UK. So for everyone out there, I'm based in the UK. I was originally a more American born and bred, but I'm now a British citizen. They let me stay and they gave me a passport. So I work for GitHub now, formerly at Microsoft earlier this year. And I'm a senior cloud. What's my title? Senior developer advocate. And I talk about all the developer tools at GitHub. I focus on DevOps practices. I focus on containerization and security and a lot of AI these days. So yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And talk to us about your sport. I know you're into cycling and yeah, that side
Do a
of
lot
things.
of do a lot of triathlon. So if I'm not doing code, I'm off doing a triathlon somewhere in the world. So I'll be traveling around this next year with triathlons all over Europe. Actually, I raced this past year in the States. Went home onto home turf, so it's fun to kind of keep me out of trouble.
Nice, thanks, thanks, Paul. Next up is Zoe.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here today with you. So I'm Zoe Wilson. I work at Avanade, where I'm a global practice lead sitting in the modern work business. In my area, we've got kind of all kinds of stuff like Viva, Teams, intranets, knowledge management, and of course Copilot, which is one of the things that I've probably spent most of this year working with. Outside of work, I live at home in Newark in England as well, with my fiance and our 7 cats. Please don't judge me. I love to read a lot. I find that because I'm so passionate about tech, I find that if I'm not working, I end up just doom scrolling. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm looking at tech blogs. So when I'm not working, I switch off by reading lots of epic fantasy and science fiction and just getting myself lost in a completely different world for a little while.
Sounds amazing. Thanks, Zoe. Next up is John. Welcome back, John, and this time from the mothership.
From the mothership, you could call it that. Abdul, Chris, it's a pleasure to see you guys again. Thanks for having me on. A year later, eh? I'm just thinking, Zoe, 7 cats. I've got 3, right? I got 3, and they're looking for a new home. So let me know, right? Address. I can post them off. No more.
No room at the inn.
That's what I keep saying, but we keep getting a new cat every couple of months now. We're all good. Look, guys, it's a pleasure to be back on, seeing lots of friendly, familiar faces. I feel I've been out of community for such a long time now. It's making me sad. I've not got my luxurious backdrop. I've just got a couple of things on the wall. I don't know what's going wrong. But I'm officially a year in to Microsoft now. It's been a hell of a whirlwind of a ride the last year. So yeah, I've made April. I managed to succeed a year, so I'm still there. I'm an Azure specialist now, so I kind of work in the infra side of Azure, so kind of dealing with lots of pro services, high tech companies, helping them, find their way around Azure as a platform. And as April says, even though I'm infra, there's lots of data, lots of AI conversations going on, as you can imagine at the moment. But really looking forward to kind of getting stuck into some of the cool announcements from Ignite as well. But thanks for having me back, guys. Good to see you all.
Thanks for being here. Next up is Nick.
Yep, thanks for having me on. Really great to be here, especially around this fantastic group that we have here today. For those who don't know me, Nick Collier, I'm the founder of Skylines Academy. I've taught over 100,000 students Azure teaching there, Microsoft MVP. And then that's my side job. My day job is I lead, like Zoe at Avanade, I lead a team at Ahead, a practice of 140 services engineers that between Azure architects, engineers, and hands-on keyboard day-to-day team members that support enterprise clients. And live in Chicago now. I've gone the other way from April. Actually, I grew up in South Africa and then eventually moved to the UK and then eventually moved to Chicago. I can't say I do triathlons. I did a marathon 6 years ago and I've been on a hangover ever since. And so now I've just got back into video games and it's all Blizzard Entertainment and World of Warcraft and all that fun again. So, but great to be here. Excited to talk about, a great event the last few weeks and the follow-ons and look forward to the conversation. So thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Sure, thanks.
Next up is Lauren.
Thanks very much, Abdul, and thanks for having me on. Lauren Strant. My title is Product and Innovation Lead at Rapid Circle, but what my job is depends on the day, depends on who's talking to me, as I do kind of bits of everything. So I'd say that my actual job is a bitser. Been working with 365 since the BPOS days, so I've been through the trenches. And my nickname here is actually Captain Automate, because if there's anything that I've seen happen once, I'll automate the hell out of it. And I love working with Microsoft Graph. When people ask me why, I'm like, because I can bend the platform to my whims, not confined by the GUI or PowerShell. I make it do what I want. So with that, I live in Melbourne, Australia, with a wife, 2 daughters, and 2 dogs who are here next to me. The dogs, that is, not the kids. Personal passion is actually home automation. So kind of getting the theme there. I love presence detection, love just having the house. I guess I grew up with sci-fi with, houses that talk to you. And I was like, hang on, I own this house. Why can't I make it talk to me and do what I want, depending on what room I'm in? So if this was a Teams call, my desk would have risen as soon as I joined based on my presence, stuff like that. So yeah, love the stuff.
Thanks, Lauren. Next up is Christina.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for having me and inviting me to the session. I am based in Oslo, Norway. I am a principal cloud engineer at Amesto42 and an Azure MVP, a CNCF ambassador. Apart from my work, I do a lot of different things in the tech community, so I just gave up trying to list that. So I just love contributing back. So sometimes I meet up for sessions like this one. And in my daily work and in the tech community, I mainly work with all things cloud native, a lot of Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure Container Apps, also Azure Hybrid with Azure Arc. And yeah, in my private life, there is still a lot of community work, so I can't just quite turn it off. But I also have 2 cats, which I love cuddling with. But apart from that, I also love hiking, reading, and I actually enjoy doing CTF challenges from time to time. I find it very soothing. Yeah, so thanks. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Christina. So before we jump into the actual meat of the discussion, what Microsoft announced, let's kind of talk about the Ignite virtual experience and the in-person experience. I know, Zoe, you were in Seattle this year attending the event. So kind of talk about your main highlights, what you found interesting, from a in-person aspect.
Yeah, so I was actually lucky enough to go to Build in May as well. So Build was like the practice run for having a Microsoft conference in this new convention center. So I already knew what the layout was going to be, and what like the keynote room was going to look and feel like, and that kind of thing. But it was really nice because this was bigger, so it felt like there was a lot more people. There was a lot of buzz. There was so much excitement and enthusiasm for all of the really great advancements that we've seen in tech and some of the new announcements this year. They had a really great expo hall for this event as well. So at Build earlier in the year, they kind of spread the partners and the sponsors around a little bit. But what they did this time was converted like the whole top floor into an expo hall with demo theaters where they had some of the MVPs doing like demo sessions and things like that. And then they had the partners and the expert stands where Microsoft product group people and MVPs were manning it. And that was just busy constantly. So yeah, it was good. A real nice buzz. One personal comment from me though, when I walked past the keynote line on that first morning, I commented to one of my colleagues that to say we've done such a good job of getting more women into tech, I was really disappointed at how few women there were actually there in person. So that that still to me feels like a real big thing that we need to fix. But from an event perspective and the content and the buzz and everything, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of learnings from last year. Last year, when we did the session, the common theme we heard not only from the US event, but also from the UK, which April hosted last year, that it wasn't very well planned. So it seems like this one was much planned. Although my personal disappointment from the virtual one was there were a lot of great sessions, but they were not recorded. So you could only attend the sessions. The sessions filled out pretty quickly, and I'm like, I cannot be, I can only be at one session at a time, and I cannot go back to the recording because it's not recorded. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointed for me. What about anybody else on the virtual side of things?
Yeah, I think I would agree that I was disappointed with some of the sessions that weren't recorded because living down under, a lot of our sessions were more afternoon sessions. And so some of those ones that weren't recorded were those were just basically the wrong time zone. And look, while I get up at 5:30 every morning to go to the gym, I'm not necessarily prepared to get up at 2 to 3 a.m. To attend a session. So yeah, it's just a shame when they weren't recorded. But so be it.
Okay. So with that being said, let's start going through what everybody thought was the highlights and the disappointment. So I'll start with Zoe. Give us your highlights. What do you thought Microsoft, really outdid themselves, and then what were you thinking to look for, and you were disappointed Microsoft did not announce, or would have thought they would have talked about much more?
So first of all, I thought that the way that they did the keynote was really, really masterful. Just the way that they told the story, starting with the physical, the data centers, the networking, the chips, and then they went up through the stack. I thought that was really powerful because it just demonstrated that they're thinking about every single aspect of this, from the physical to the virtual. If I worked at Google or AWS, I would have been really worried watching that. So that was fantastic. From an actual product perspective, Copilot Studio, from a Microsoft 365 Copilot perspective, which is where I've spent a lot of my time, we've already been looking at extending with graph connectors and message extensions and things like that. But I think bringing that Copilot Studio capability into that M365 license is just phenomenal, and will really help us to be able to drive innovation for customers. Staying in that Copilot camp as well, the two other ones that I was really interested in was Copilot for Service and Copilot for Sales, because both of them again include that M365 Copilot license. They include Copilot Studio and then additional things that are kind of specific to that function. So it's really starting to think about, not just that broad productivity benefit of Gen AI, but actually how we can chain these things together to provide benefit. And then just from something that I actually really want my hands on as soon as it lands in the product, some of those Copilot capabilities to populate whiteboards and populate meeting notes, I thought they were absolutely fantastic. And I cannot wait to play with those.
Great. Thank you for that. John, what about you?
Oh, no, 100% pick up on what Zoe said there. I think the story of that kind of, obviously looking at it through my infra lens, I guess, the fact that Microsoft now are actually in the business of making and developing their own chipsets is kind of a game changer, really. As Zoe mentioned then, if I were kind of looking at that from the outside in, then, that's clearly what does that mean? Just picking up on some of the news this week, just the investment from Microsoft that's been announced, literally within the last day or so, off the back of that I think they're looking to invest $2.5 billion over the next 3 or 4 years in the UK, just kind of extending and building out data centers in the UK is phenomenal. And, and obviously, when you try and peek behind, why have Microsoft done that, and looking at the fact that they've kind of developed their own, kind of risk-based process of those low-powered kind of workloads, and obviously the Maya chipset in terms of competing essentially with NVIDIA, in terms of, I think I read somewhere that the prices of some of the NVIDIA chipsets now to train these large language models are kind of going through the roof. You're talking megabucks. So the fact that Microsoft have kind of turned that around and thought, well, okay, let's get our own silicon out there, and obviously we can try and control those costs and develop it for their own data centers. It's kind of, it's a genius kind of revelation, if you ask me, for the future of Microsoft data centers globally. But off the back of that, that kind of news around the chipsets and things like that, it's got to be Copilot. I think Copilot was a drinking game, right, for anybody watching Ignite. It's how many times did you count? But Azure got its own Copilot. I think, it's still in preview essentially at the moment, but I tweeted the links out only, fairly recently actually, and I've been speaking to a couple of my customers about. Unfortunately, I think the preview's only open for enterprise level customers, is my understanding. So, it's going to get there. But yeah, I've been playing with that, looking at some of the demos as well, and caught a couple of the sessions at Ignite on that course. I'm going to look at that, and yeah, phenomenal. I think it's things like cost management, just being able to ask very simple questions. Why the hell has my subscription gone up so much this month? Well, that's because you left that bunch of VMs running. You might want to go and sort that out. You can imagine, how that's going to be a bit of a game changer in the portal. So yeah, those two things. Just trying to think now. It's the same always. There's always a plethora of other, fantastic announcements that kind of go under the radar. But I picked up some NetApp enhancements. Been dealing with some customers lately on NetApp stuff. There's some great kind of efficiencies and they're going on there. And of course, we got Fabric has gone GA now. So huge conversations with customers, and the whole AI story, the whole fact that we got Fabric now, this kind of single pane of glass for all your data needs. It's now GA. Having lots of conversations, and great to see it finally going GA after all that time in preview. So yeah, loads of good stuff. Really good to see some of the announcements.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, John. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think a lot there. What was interesting, just hitting on the NVIDIA comment from John there as well. I think, it was interesting watching the reInvent keynote, just a couple days ago as well. We had NVIDIA up there with NVIDIA at Ignite, and it's obviously very real. The demand for these chips and the ability to consume them on demand is not going away. And I mean, it's reflected in NVIDIA's stock price. If we watch that on a daily basis, it just keeps going up. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I came at the conference from a enterprise management and platform engineering. They were the two sort of streams, if you will. I was looking at how do customers I work with, large airlines, large financial institutions, large healthcare institutions, like how is this going to help them, be faster? They're struggling with education on cloud, even though we've had cloud skills initiatives for 3, 4, 5 years now in Azure. And so I thought Copilot from just an education and learning and pointing people in the right direction was great. I saw that you could ask, questions about how do I do this? Maybe I can accelerate deployment. Maybe it generates the ARM templates for me automatically, or at least gives me the CLI commands and things to get up and running. So I thought that was good. Where I felt it maybe could go a little further, but I respect it's still in preview, was, does it actually give the specific templates you need for those specific app teams? Does it actually generate pipelines as a service? I think that's probably all coming, and I haven't caught up on the GitHub announcements yet. So maybe April's got a whole bunch of intel coming on that side. But I thought from an enterprise standpoint, that was really interesting. There was a good session on IaaS tools. The auto manage I thought was interesting. You could kind of just put things in place. I'm just a big believer in any time we can find a way to automate VM management, it means we free up people's time to focus on more advanced and more meaningful transformations in cloud. And then the one that surprised me actually was the Windows Server announcements, the vNext components, which I thought were really interesting. I haven't really been following Windows Server for quite some time. I felt like it was just kind of going away over time, but I think it's really interesting now. I've got when I meet with a lot of customers now, this Broadcom acquisition of VMware, there's this need for people that are questioning whether they want to renew VMware now. And Hyper-V being a serious contender, if they're not just going to migrate natively into cloud, do they look at other alternatives on premises? We're hearing that conversation come as well. So I like the hybrid story that Microsoft's really got. It's not all in, and there's no options on premise. They're investing in the management tools, the on-prem story, and obviously continue to just advance on the Azure space all around. So yeah, there's a ton. I still think there's a lot to go through. I actually like the virtual backpack and everything, and you could throw stuff in to come back to later. I thought that was kind of fun, and yeah, still a lot to go back through. I mean, it's one of those things where how much can you digest in a couple of days and weeks that follow.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge, right? Because the information, even looking at the news of books, like it is long, and you're like, okay, which ones am I going to choose? And I even was struggling just going through building out my schedule just to attend, right? Because there's so much. And to your point, right? If you have a focused area, you are obviously going to be looking at that rather than going all across the board, because it's a vast area. And just look at us here, right? Everybody has their own focus area, and Microsoft is announcing on all products. So, yeah, that's massive amount of information just to get overwhelmed. So yeah, no, I agree on that piece. Lauren, what about you?
I missed anything to do with Copilot. Was Copilot mentioned at Ignite? I wasn't aware.
No.
No, look, I think actually we did a count in the book of news. I think there was like 268 mentions of AI and 280 of Copilot. Look, on one hand, I was having a chuckle about the renaming of it, where you've got like Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, and how I can build a Copilot in Copilot Studio and publish it to Microsoft 365 Copilot. But I think to kind of echo what Zoe was saying about the fact that, yeah, the Copilot Studio is now, more available than how Virtual Agents was, I think helps people build a lot. I guess I was probably secretly hoping for a lower threshold of Copilot license minimum count, so that it would be kind of more democratized. But I completely get, the significant investment Microsoft has to make for every, effectively instance that it stands up for a client. But it was good to also see things like Loop go GA, because that's been a long time coming, and I think that really changes things, and especially add Copilot into the mix there. So yeah, I think because I kind of sit across all of M365 and a whole bunch of areas, there was a lot of good things to see there, especially with Planner as well. The new journey that Planner's going on, and many people have already been on the Planner journey for quite some time, and I got to a point where I said, I'm getting off this bus, I'm tired of this journey, and advocated others do the same. So I'm kind of recharged with the new vision that they've got, with mashing in project for the web and to do as well, and making it a quite a rich task ecosystem, because I'm a big proponent of personal productivity and not always automation. But if you can bring the two together, happy days. So yeah, seeing a lot of those new features coming to things like Teams and yeah, as I said, like the new Planner and Loop going GA and the whiteboard features, and also Stream had some incredibly powerful announcements for their video platform, because Stream has kind of been, like some of the other products, a little bit of a laugh in terms of, there was Office 365 video, then there was Stream, and then it became Stream Classic, and there's Stream New. And so there's been a journey with that, but where it is now and what it's doing, and, yes, all of the AI features that they're infusing into it, but even just other, making it so much of a richer platform, and then combined with things like Clipchamp being available in Microsoft 365, I think to the point that April was talking before about, going from Camtasia to Adobe Premiere. I think a lot of people don't even know they can do basic recording with Clipchamp and editing. So giving that functionality as well as what Stream can do means I think a lot of people can create really rich content within their own 365 environment. So we can get beyond just dry text. And especially if you then have, say, hey, Copilot, go create me, a script for this, and then you put that in with your stream recording and then edit it with Clipchamp, then you should have, fantastic video output. So that's the dream. So yeah, it was exciting to see those kind of productivity and enhancements.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And Christina, from your aspect, what did you see from a cloud native aspect?
Yeah, I actually wanted also to follow up on the previous question, because like due to the time zones and all the sessions that were available in person, I really was a bit sad for some of the sessions I really wanted to add to my backpack, and then they were just available in Seattle. So that was a huge tear there for that. And there were actually a few interesting panel discussions that had a very limited amount of seats available. So I didn't manage to get on those either. So that was kind of a bummer, but still, I need to admit that I'm still catching up on some of those sessions, because there was like, even if you filter for 96 results per page, you still have 7 pages to go through in the total amount of sessions. So that was a lot. And that was clear that there was a lot of Copilot and AI topics and discussions around that. And from the cloud native and maybe specifically Kubernetes perspective, I'm excited to see how the Copilot for Azure will kind of benefit the operations, the platform engineering team that is working directly with services like AKS, because in the cloud native landscape, we already have some tools that are gaining popularity, like for instance, Kubernetes GPT. So I'm a bit interested to see where this journey will go with Copilot, because if you think long term, there may be benefits and value in that. For instance, if you need to debug things that may be going wrong, and just helping to gather and aggregate that information and evaluate it and come with helpful suggestions on what may be wrong, could actually spare quite a lot of time for those of us experiencing errors in Kubernetes clusters on an everyday basis. There were like a lot of announcements, and that was really nice to see some of the services that I have been using for some time also reaching GA, like Azure Chaos Studio, for example, for the chaos engineering experiments to test like the resilience of your systems, not only Kubernetes or AKS, but also there are different services like Azure Key Vault or Azure Virtual Machines that you could run those experiments towards. And I think it's been a few years now since it has been in preview, and it's really nice to see that it is reaching GA, which means it's quite widely adopted. And I guess one more thing from the cloud native and cloud platform engineering perspective that I'm really excited about is the Radius project, which there was a great session from Brendan Burns and Mark Rusnovich and a few others about that. And that is an open source project that just recently got launched. And it is kind of meant to help the platform engineering teams to build those platforms, to build those like abstractions that should make things easier for developers to get their applications out there wherever they need to run, be it Kubernetes, for example. And that tool or that project is supposed to kind of make it more standardized and maybe more easier to kind of build such platforms that are more production ready and have all the best practices from cost, security, resource efficiency in place. So I'm really excited about that one. They have also fully transparent and open for the community contributions, and it was really cool to see. So I'm looking forward to kind of see where it will where the development will take this project further. What I missed a bit, like on the personal view, with all the advancements in the cloud native space and with how much the AI has taken off and the large language models have taken off, I missed a bit a few more talks and maybe more focus also on the sustainability perspective. I know there were a few talks on that. I found 5, I think, in total. 3 of them were not recorded and only in Seattle, if I remember correctly. And there were just 1 or 2 that were mostly about Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability and what that is. Though I think that there is much more potential here, because I see in many sessions that we mention things like resource efficiency, and with the chipsets that are coming in from Microsoft, and this that will boost performance in order to be able to kind of handle all the machine learning processing and all that. There is an additional aspect here that could be interesting to look at, which is kind of how this resource efficiency can potentially also contribute to minimizing resource waste and running our systems and services in a more sustainable manner. So this is really taking off in the cloud native space, and I hope that we will also get to see more of that, for example, in the next year's Ignite. But all in all, a lot of great stuff happening, and I need to say that many of us from the Cloud Native space are also watching other conferences like KubeCon and Cloud Native Con, and they're happening quite close to each other. And to see that Microsoft and other companies manage to like announce so many things on every conference, you can just think about how much effort and how much work is being put in to be able to announce so much. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And before I jump to April to talk about GitHub and her comments, I'm also seeing like what Microsoft has done with the Microsoft Designer. That's something really new. And even the last couple of days I've seen in the community, I logged in Twitter and everybody's like having their own profile pictures and whatnot changing. So that's amazing. It's the way that is moving. I think it's phenomenal. Like, any comments on that?
my 9-year-old daughter to it yesterday, and just seeing the things that she was coming up with and giggling to herself. She was creating like the ghost face killer riding on a unicorn holding a banana, in rage.
I have to say, I liked your picture, Lorian. I liked your designer prompt. I thought that was really lifelike.
I know, right? It did such a good job. Thank you.
And then let's move to April. April, your thoughts about Microsoft, and then give us your thoughts about GitHub Universe announcements.
So when I'll be honest, I did not go to Ignite. I was asked to go and I declined because I'd been at Universe, and you guys just talked about the amount of effort that goes into these events. I was exhausted. I was like, I don't need to go to another conference. I've been at a lot of conferences this year. But when I tuned in, it was like, you get a co-pilot, you get a co-pilot. Everyone gets it was like Oprah, like everyone gets, a free thing. And it was just like, yeah, everyone gets a co-pilot. And I'm like, holy crap. And I think a year ago, 6-8 months ago, we were just kind of like, no, co-pilot's not going to take over. And here it is. It's like taking over the world. So I think for us, a lot of it was the co-pilot capabilities. Everyone else has kind of touched on the different, things that have happened, commoditizing hardware. John talked about Microsoft making a big bet on the UK and the economy over here, which is really good for us. That will be interesting to see how that plays out, especially for us with political situations around Brexit, et cetera, and like data residency. Those are huge things for us in the UK. So it's very cool to see those investments being made over here, and hopefully with like education and the schools and getting new jobs out there in the economy. But yeah, and then I was at Universe. It was my first time going to GitHub Universe, first time as a GitHub employee going to GitHub Universe. So a lot happened at Universe as well. A lot happened for GitHub. I think if anyone here uses GitHub, you're kind of like, it's source control, right? Realistically, we've built out a massive platform. We talked about our Copilot, tons of AI announcements as well. Tons of AI. I gave a session on customizing your GitHub Copilot experience. So now you can customize Copilot with your own code and documentation in your repositories. So you're taking it from a model that's trained on public data to something that's trained on your data, and you can keep your data private. And I think there's a huge requirement from enterprises around this. That's why we've done it. Also, people want to be able to customize their Copilot. We've commoditized Copilot for everyone. I think that's the reality of it. Like, we've just commoditized AI and putting it in the hands of everyone. Do you remember, like Microsoft days of old? They commoditized workstations, right? Everyone had a computer in every home. Now we have I have 4 computers sitting around me right now. We're now commoditizing AI at GitHub and Microsoft. So the investments in there were huge. We had a ton of stuff around hardware releases as well. A lot of them Mac M1 chips that people have been asking for, ARM-based hardware for development, which has been pretty cool. But yeah, we had kind of 3 sections at Universe. We had platform, which we called the developer experience. AI had its own track, and then security. So which one do you guys want to hear about?
Security.
Platform. Security first. There you go.
Okay. Well, we can cover all of them. So for security, we had AI powered remediation. Go figure. We're seeing a lot of stuff. So if you guys have ever used some security tools in GitHub, the GitHub Advanced Security stuff, where it will pick up secrets or like connection strings from your database. In cloud native world, we can scan our containers and look for vulnerabilities in our images. We've enabled auto-generated custom patterns in your security practices. So instead of just having kind of, I don't want to say generic, but your fairly regular scans that do certain things, now you can customize for whatever patterns you have in your code base, your infrastructure's code base. And then we've put AI behind that. And you're going to see AI behind every product at GitHub as well. And then a lot of insights around actions on security. So those are kind of the big things. So putting AI behind it and being able to kind of expand how do you fix your vulnerabilities in your code. So before it goes to the cloud, before it goes into production. So there's a lot more focus on bringing all these tools closer to the developer experience. And then platform, some really cool stuff on scalability. So I talked a little bit about hardware. When you're managing GitHub, I think we can all agree that in the past it's been a little bit tumultuous, hard to manage, time consuming. So we've done a lot of stuff around user accounts and authentication mechanisms. We just rolled out rule sets that can go across all your repositories in your organization. So instead of using like branch protection and getting really granular, we've kind of come up out of the granular side and going, how do you manage an enterprise level entity? So we have a lot about that. How you configure your repositories. One of the big things that people liked were pull request merge queues. So if any of you are contributing code, a lot of requests at once, we've put in a merge queue so you don't get merge bombs to help with that. So there's been some cool stuff around that. So I think those are some of the highlights. And then again, Copilot. Copilot took the show without question.
Okay. And I guess one major disappointment that you were expecting from Microsoft? That's an open question for anybody.
I'd just say IDP. I think I'm hearing a lot of Backstage, IDP as a service. I think that's the big one. I mean, Harness is releasing, GitLab's obviously releasing around that. Customers are building homegrown, even ServiceNow, I think, is getting in on the action there. And I just see that as every time we home grow these and build Backstage open source for customers, it's quite hard to manage. And, I'd love to see the Microsoft polish, like we say, on services to make it easier to consume at an enterprise level. That's probably the only one I would say was missing. I think the other interesting part right now is this Terraform BSL license shift is an active conversation daily. Where does Microsoft stand on that long term? We don't know. I mean, obviously they've invested in Terraform. It's open today. You can buy Terraform Cloud, but if you decide to use third-party services, now you're in a weird spot, I would say, depending on what you use. So I think that's the other one. Just is Microsoft getting behind Terraform? I'd love to see them just buy HashiCorp and be done with it. But ARM and Bicep are alternatives, right? So what do people choose, right? And it gets complicated for enterprises. People get analysis paralysis on some of these things. So I think clarification, I think, is good in those areas. But yeah, IDP is the main one. Yeah, go ahead.
I think on the Terraform stuff. So I'm working with the Azure Core team on an open source project around Terraform. And I think what's interesting is Hashi's grown in its time. And we kind of always joke that like Microsoft should just buy them. Microsoft has been focused on building out Bicep. without question. And the Terraform one's really interesting. When we look at the relationship with Hashi, it's a great relationship. GitHub has a great relationship with Hashi. Microsoft has a great relationship with Hashi. It's tough because it's its own entity, and Microsoft built a lot of products to go into Terraform. Now it looks like Hashi's bringing a lot of that in-house. Or at least they're saying they're going to bring it in-house, and that may or may not be public knowledge, but here we are on the internet live. Yeah, again, how April got fired. No, I think
clarification.
trying to bring a lot of stuff in-house. I mean, you look at all the products they've developed over the last 3 and 4 years.
Yeah.
They've done a lot in the open source community, but they're trying to, they're still they made some changes. They've ruffled some feathers in the community for sure. So.
I think for me, I guess what was disappointing was we're seeing a lot of premium licenses being created around Microsoft 365 services. And it's, for so long we've had it so simple. And I understand Microsoft is a business, it's there to make money. So my frustration is not so much about the licensing itself. I guess what I was and always am hoping at any conferences that Microsoft has is that they'll announce something like a Power Platform premium license. Or finally give us an E7 and things like that. So we don't necessarily have to have like E5 is now effectively the hero SKU. And then we have to buy it and premium of this and premium of this and premium of this. Instead, give us a premium SKU that, yes, will cost the world, but it's much easier to manage and license people because the people who are creating things, for example, like Power Apps that are using Dataverse, are also using workflows that are using Dataverse, and they're not necessarily connected. So that's 2 licenses people need to have. So it'd be much easier to be able to just say, here's a Power Platform, premium license, or, with Planner and its new licensing and how it's going to have premium tiers, again, to be able to couple that with things like Themes Premium and other things and say, hey, you're a mega productivity user. Let's give you, productivity premium. Or just Microsoft 365 E7. So I think that's probably what I was hoping to see out of Ignite was, if they're creating this, all these tentacles of new license streams, is maybe bundle some. I was really hoping for that.
Yeah, so I'm completely with you on that licensing, because if you start to look at Teams Premium, SharePoint Premium, Copilot, Viva Suite, and then different bundles of Power Platform SKU as well, you can easily get to like a really significant amount for an enterprise organization that actually wants to use all of these. And it makes it really difficult because you've got kind of Microsoft launching all of these things that would be really great if they would work together, but it's really difficult to actually get organizations to go all in on everything. So yeah, a bit of simplification on that, or at least bundling things a little bit more intelligently, I think. The other one that's really interesting to me as well is Microsoft Teams Premium, because that's become kind of this catch-all that has this really random mix of features that all appeal to different stakeholders and different buyers in an organization. You've got like all the security stuff, you've got the branding and the corp com stuff. And then they've just lumped in all of the immersive spaces and Mesh for Teams things as well. So it's just like this really interesting kind of mix of stuff that just feels like it's been bundled together somewhere that it can be given a bit of a premium price tag.
Yeah, and all this, notice Microsoft requires a PhD when it comes to licensing because you can never figure it out, and they make it more complicated. So customers are double dipping, or Microsoft wants you to double dip. So working with customers, and they're like, we are using this license, but to access another tenant, it requires licensing, and they're always adding more more licensing in the mix. So that's always a conversation.
There used to be and I used to actually have the certification for being a Microsoft certified licensing expert. Like it was a full-on exam. You actually had to study kind of like through Prometric and those kind of things. And that was back in the days of having, volume license and select and all these other different types. You had to figure out which ones. And we're kind of back into that now, but it's just which license to use when, because things like SharePoint Premium, to that point there's the, per user license of SharePoint Premium or the Azure consumption one. And we've got that with, Power Automate, where it's Power Automate per user or Power Automate per flow. And Power Pages and those kind of things. And it's I think there was that joke a while ago where someone put the Microsoft Power Platform licensing documentation into ChatGPT, and it couldn't figure things out. And I think, yeah, that's just unfortunately the reality. But that's why AI will never win, because it's human.
See, and here I was going to go like build a Copilot that just does the licensing part of it. It's like, just take all that information and, maybe that's a thing anyways. I might try just for fun.
So what I heard is that Copilot can build ARM templates, but Lauren, it can't. As soon as it's licensing questions, it all falls apart, right?
That's the big thing that Copilot won't do, is those little nuances that make all the difference. Like I've had, previously just Bing Chat Enterprise, Microsoft Copilot now, create a PowerShell script for me about registering SharePoint sites with a hub site. But it gave me the wrong commandlet. The script was correct, but the commandlet was the absolute wrong one. So that's the thing, is it's still going to require that human intelligence to go, that's not correct. I can use 90% of what you've given me.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's figured out licensing. I released a video a couple months ago. My hair was different, so it must have been 3-4 months ago. Anyways, that's how I base my videos now. What does my hair look like? And it was all about Visual Studio licensing, Visual Studio subscription services. It's the old, we're not allowed to call it MSDN. And they approached me out doing the video. They're like, we need to get rid of MSDN as like a misnomer, as a name. But I'm like, but it's always been MSDN. I'm like, why do you keep changing things on me? And they're like, so the whole was VSS licensing. And I'm actually recording the 3rd video in the series, like next Monday, on it, about all the benefits. Like, did you know you get GitHub Enterprise with Visual Studio subscription services? I didn't. And I'm a GitHub employee. But yeah, it's things like that. And like all the Azure stuff you get access to. Licensing's a minefield.
Well, April, your former Microsoft. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, your former Microsoft. Tell us, is there really a department somewhere that is purely charged with just renaming products at random times?
I have to apologize every time I give a talk when I have to like say the name of a product and be like, please don't look at me. I didn't have anything to do with this. There's not a department. There's multiple departments that just decide, like, you know what? The wind's blowing a different direction today. Let's change the name. It's, you know what though, but we did it at GitHub for a universe. We changed the name of a ton of products. Part of it's because we add new features and capability, and someone tries to make it more clear. I think Azure rebranded recently. I think you all will see different Azure branding coming out soon if you haven't already. Yeah, I think it's just to like keep us on our toes and keep it spicy. I don't know.
Actually, I'm wearing my beta print of part of Entra, or part of Microsoft Entra, for when Azure AD was being renamed. And I was writing the MS 700 exam with some people, and we kept telling go, oh no, we have to say part of Microsoft Entra. And like, I'm going to get a T-shirt printed.
It's a difficult one.
I think the work that
changing it from Azure AD to Entra is still a difficult one. But yeah, I mean, going back to that point around kind of renaming brands and things like that, and kind of finding out, actually where are we going with all these things? It's a daily occurrence, right? That when you're speaking with customers, you're trying to find the point that you're trying to make with a specific product. So when we're talking about Entra AD, the licensing thing always comes up all the time. So it's always an Azure Infra thing, right? Because it's got the word Azure in it, but actually it's not. It's a 365 thing. So it's been the bane of my life since I've been at Microsoft, if I'm being honest. But one of those things, to put the question of pay per license per user or consumption base, Azure Infra will always be consumption based. Okay, always go that route. It's always the best way, and I don't get anything for saying that. That's probably an internal joke there somewhere. But yeah, always consumption based, right? It's always about Azure consumption. I've got no M365 colleagues on this call, so that's good.
I have said, I had a Microsoft account manager and a GitHub account manager on a call with a customer the other day, and I said, I don't care if you buy our products, you need to use the right methodologies, and the product is secondary. And they both just sat there and froze, because one of them's like Azure DevOps focused, the other one's GitHub platform focused. And I'm like, I don't care what product you buy, you need to do the right methodologies, DevOps practices. And like, actually, they were talking about cloud native. So Christina, you would have appreciated this conversation. I said, unless you're building cloud native applications in a cloud native way, I don't care what your tool is. You can spend all the money you want. You're not going to be doing it right unless you change the culture. And the methods behind that. The licensing and the products are secondary. And I just watched the account team lose all like color in their face. And I'm like, we want our products to love, we want our customers to love what they do, right? We can rename our products. We can license them however the heck we want and confuse people and give people too much time on their hands to figure this stuff out. At the end of the day, we want them to love what they do and be more productive and be effective at what they do. And to do that, you just need, it's more than just the tool.
Well said.
We did have a question about, we're entertaining Kevin on the runway at Schiphol, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
his flight's delayed. I think he's watched some of the other people already like go through the airport, get on the plane, land at the other side, and he's just sat waiting to hit the runway.
Womp womp. Well, happy to keep you busy, Kevin.
Yeah. Of course,
I tell you
so
the rename. Sorry, I tell you the rename
Yep.
that has caused me the most problems since Ignite. Renaming Bing Copilot, Bing Chat Enterprise to Microsoft Copilot. Because every time someone says to me which Copilot, every time someone says a client has a question about a Copilot, the first thing I say is which Copilot to make sure they're talking to the right person.
Yep.
And now they're like Copilot, just Copilot, and it's made it really confusing. Really confusing.
Well, I was thinking on that term. I had the idea last night of getting a T-shirt printed of, like the faces of like. There's like a grid that's like the faces of an actor. It's like Optimus Prime, with different emotions because he doesn't obviously change his face. And I was thinking of putting one that was like all the different Copilot logos on one. It's like, pick your poisons. Like, I don't know which one means what.
Well, it's the same, so to your point, like, we've been kind of working through even some stuff with, it's like, okay, it used to be Power Virtual Agent, and now it's Copilot Studio. And we also have Azure AI Studio, and we have Windows AI Studio, and we have, I think there's a third one in there somewhere too, or fourth one, but I've gotten that question a lot too. It's like, okay, like, where should I be? Where should I be doing this? What am I really creating? That's been really fun to navigate too. And each portal does something a little bit different, and each one brings a little bit of a different piece of the puzzle together too. So,
and I think Zoe, to your point, like the Bing Chat rebranding, like I kind of get it because Bing has, unfortunately a bad name, so they didn't want to necessarily, rely on that. But I'm not saying like I use it as my primary search engine. I tell people to use it, and I was actually telling people they should be looking to use Defender to block things like block ChatGPT and direct people to Bing Chat instead, so the data is more secure for Bing Chat Enterprise. So making it Microsoft Copilot is then confusing because now it's Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And that comment that I was making in our stream chat about how I'm building a Copilot in Copilot Studio to publish into Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. Like, I do wonder, do people actually get together in a room at some point when they're testing out product renames and go, let's test this out in a sentence and see how it works?
Yeah. So one of the funniest for me, I know that like if you go back a few months or a year or so, everybody was saying, we've got the Defender was the same as Copilot. We've got all of these Defenders for everything. Mm-hmm. So out of the Ignite announcements, the one that really made me laugh was Security Copilot in Defender for Cloud, which was just like, this is like the crossing of the beams.
Yeah. Then you got to make it an acronym, right?
Yeah. Because we love our acronyms at Microsoft and GitHub.
And then add premium for enterprise at the end.
Yes.
V2. Why not throw a V2 or something like that in there as well?
Don't forget the suite too. So it's like premium plus suite.
There is actually a website at Microsoft for all the acronyms. Mm-hmm. I cannot make this up. There's an internal website for that. And I remember starting going, what the heck? And like the problem I had as a Microsoft FTE was you're speaking to a customer and it just comes spouting out of your face because you literally don't want to say the phrase.
April, are you talking about the IAW?
Huh?
The internal acronym website. Oh, sorry, guys. It's too late, is it? You know,
Bad joke. Bad joke.
Bad joke. Bad joke.
Yes.
Well,
The thing that I'd like to see though is SharePoint and Copilot spelt correctly, consistently.
Well, hold on. Let's talk
okay.
about how to
That's
spell
okay.
Copilot, because that's actually a differentiator. So
No, I get Copilot with a lowercase c and Copilot with an uppercase C, but there is no Copilot with a capital P.
no. So GitHub Copilot, I'm going to put this in the chat for everyone that's out there in the world, because I have people spell this for me in various ways. It is Copilot with a capital C and no hash. I can't post now. It told me it failed. Okay. So it's GitHub with a capital G, capital H, and Copilot with a capital C. No dash, no space, no
Yeah.
capital P. I've
But that's
actually
what
just
I'm saying, like is I'm seeing so many co-pilot, uppercase pilot. Like, look, so being quite frank here, I'm autistic and ADHD, right? So for things for me are very black and white and very fast. So what I don't get is where people can literally retweet something and then spell it wrong in that instant. You know,
I've
or
seen
refer to a
emails.
website.
I've seen emails where people spell it like 3 different ways in the same email. And one of my most used sentences of the last few months has been, it's Copilot, capital C, no hyphen, small p. And just I'm constantly correcting people because it's a product name. You know, it's not a person sat next to you flying a plane. It is a product name.
Yes.
I think
And
you
I think
found
that's what I'd love to see
title of this
Copilot
video.
do.
I can say you
Sorry?
found the title. You found the title of this video now, haven't you? It's Copilot. You just got to put that sentence in the title, and it's going to go viral.
This is why I think that, you know, Copilot is the thing that I guess I'm missing is I want Copilot to be more in my face like Clippy was. And this is what I'd love for it to almost start with. Hey, it looks like you're spelling SharePoint incorrectly.
I'm pretty sure it's
waiting
baked
for
into
him, like,
Windows
where's he going?
11 now.
Sorry, what was that, April?
I think it's baked into Windows 11 now on a lot of the features.
Yeah, but that's the Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, which is the Bing Chat Enterprise.
You know, it's all confusing to me.
Isn't that Windows Copilot?
It's Windows Copilot, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Kevin's on a plane. We should totally talk about planes and yeah.
Who's your Copilot, Kevin?
Kind of land themselves these days, right? So
Yeah, you don't need pilots.
yeah.
They're just
Just
smile
one.
and nod.
Copilot for Copilot.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm trying to build with the Copilot in Copilot Studio is so that my own colleagues can just talk to it and then ask which Copilot should I be talking about.
Yeah, Kevin's actually just corrected us. He said it's not Windows Copilot, it's Copilot for Windows.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this was another really interesting thing. Like if you look in the Book of News, there's a difference in how they name the Copilots. So you have Copilot in Teams, Copilot in Word, and then Copilot for Microsoft 365. So Copilot in Dynamics 365 Finance, where it's kind of or sales, where it's like in that Dynamics wrapper, but where it's across a number of products or services, then it becomes for instead. So Copilot for M365 and in Teams. And it's like it's not a hard and fast rule like Security Copilot just completely breaks the logic completely. But we were trying to work out, you know, what is the difference in the way that they're actually naming these Copilots.
I think you've just uncovered a new rebranding exercise for next month for Microsoft to take a look at there, Zoe, to be honest.
I'm thinking if it is hard for us, you can think about the students and the beginners that want to take those certifications and like figure out how to be able to answer any of those questions. Like I was taking the SC900 recently because I had to use the voucher from the Microsoft build, and that's the fundamental one, and it just lists all the portals and all the different Microsoft Defender services. And this, I'm just thinking about folks who haven't worked much with it and want to get into this space. That's a tough job. So maybe we should also have a Copilot for like certifications that can quiz you and give you all the help to kind of being able to navigate in the different services.
Yeah, it's like we need the periodic table of co-pilots now.
Yeah.
A new blog post or something, just listing them all out.
Yeah, that's something
Yeah,
for Matt
well-
Wade to create next.
One
What's
of the
that?
things that I think is really sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, Lauren, what did you say?
Oh, sorry, I was saying that's one for Matt Wade to create next.
Oh,
release. Yeah, sorry, good. Okay.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say now.
We're on periodic table of co-pilots, and then
Yeah, we're-
blog post.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, got it. I've got the thread back. So one of the things that I think is really interesting when you look at how all of these co-pilots will start to work together, and if you've got multiple co-pilots, the benefits that you'll get from them will start to compound, and hopefully they'll be able to talk to each other. What this means for us as technologists is that we need to get out of our bubble. So people who sit in the BizApp space need to actually understand more about modern work, both from a technology perspective, but also in terms of how people work and how they do their jobs and how they use their systems, and vice versa. Because the clients, the organizations who are using this, they don't care whether they don't care kind of what technology it is. What they want is experiences that work. And this is going to be really difficult for us because we need to learn as fast as Microsoft are going so that we can actually start to understand how these things will actually work in that broader ecosystem and broader line of business systems and context. And yeah, it's interesting times, but we all need to get out of our box and just think bigger than the tech that we work with.
And I think actually that's kind of what inspired me to write my blog post the other day about the Copilot bull, because I think a lot of people are focusing on, when I see a lot of people creating content about it or partners putting offers out there, a lot of it is the general governance stuff and licensing and apps. And I think the thing that's being missed there is that Copilot, in whatever form it is about the people that it's assisting. And I think a lot of organizations out there, adoption kind of dropped off after COVID because, hey, everybody's using Teams, job done. And so, but they're not necessarily using Teams effectively, or they're not necessarily using To-Do for their own personal task management, or, some of these newer apps. And I'm not saying everybody needs to use them, but a lot of people still don't even know what OneNote is. And so I think that this is the thing is where Copilot can help you. It requires not the technology to help you. It requires you to have been along a journey where you think differently and are open to new thoughts and new ways of doing things, because you can't generate a prompt in any, generative AI, Copilot or whatever else, if you're not thinking to be able to do that, because you're just doing the thing that I always do. Oh, I always export to Excel and, do VLOOKUPs in that. Or I always go and create a Word document, and I always go and do a PowerPoint this way, as opposed to thinking, hey, this tool can do some of these things for me. That's the problem, is that people aren't thinking that. So there kind of needs to be that push on that classic adoption of ways of working, of saying, hey, there's all these tools at your fingertips. Let's look at how you work. Let's get you thinking about that so that when you go to do this, you'll go, oh, hey, Copilot, generate a workflow for me, because you're not afraid of Power Automate.
I think that's the same problem we've had in tech for the last 15 years, right? So we had physical servers, then we went to virtualization. When virtualization came about, people are like, holy crap, I'm out of job. Then we went to the cloud, and I started working in Azure in 2013. It's actually been 10 years. I remember being at a customer site in North London, setting up a whole infrastructure on my own in Azure. I thought it was like the coolest thing. And I remember I had to adapt, and then I started learning infrastructure as code, and then I started doing development. This is the same thing we've had in tech for years. The tech is changing to be valuable and still valid in this day and age. You just got to start learning the new stuff and understanding it and being open and showing that growth mindset. And that's what I talk about with AI. And when people can actually see it's there to help you and not replace you, we called it Copilot to be literally your pair programmer, your rubber duck. It's meant to be your co-pilot, despite the spelling. Let's just not go down that route again. But it's the same problem we've had in tech. Like, how do you stay relevant? I mean, I know a lot of people that literally get up, they go do their job every day. It's the same thing 9 to 5. And that's not why I started in tech, right? That's not why any of us started. So there are a lot of people that do that though. And they're like, oh, I don't want to change. I remember having to teach a guy about virtualization like I must have been 8-9 years ago, and he just refused to learn. He goes, no, we hired you as our our managed service provider to do the virtualization for us. And literally the dude literally didn't want to touch the physical box that was hosting the virtual machines. They're like, no, you're doing it. He just wouldn't learn. So
Well, one of the things to that point, April, like I've when I had was doing this, Office 365 or Microsoft 365 overview slides, when I take people through like everything in it, what I do at the start is I kind of break their brains first to show her that hey, the way you work is trash, without obviously using those words or being that insulting. But I will then kind of show a video of my then, I think she was 5-year-old daughter talking to Alexa and asking it to play a song. And I think like, slight side note, like people, when they use Alexa, there's probably like, I think 1% in Google, they use like 1% of the functionality, play this song, set a timer, set a reminder, those things, as opposed to all the others. Whereas it's the younger generation, and I'm trying not to be ageist here, who don't know, they're not in, our experience, our boxes that we've, built over the career of how we do things, who just go, oh, I'm going to wonder if I do this. Like I saw my now 9-year-old daughter programming a little LED display by talking into her Chromebook keyboard. And I was like, what are you talking to your computer for? Oh, I'm getting it to write the sentence. I was like, I thought I'd just use a keyboard. So, and I use this video to go, that kid of mine, that's how she plays music. She doesn't go into an app. She doesn't go into use a mouse. She just says, hey, device, do this for me. And at some point, she'll be in the workforce and we'll still be here. And if we haven't changed, how are we going to work with that person? Because we're still going to be over here, they're working over there, and we're both going to frustrate each other. So I think that's the whole thing of that point about adoption I was saying before. And to your point, April, is like people have to change. We can't not change. It's happening. We've adapted to smartphones. We've adapted to apps. We've adapted to streaming. Sure, some faster than others, but you have to do it. And the same thing in the workforce with the technologies we've got, whether it's cloud or whether it's, Copilot. I'll get off my soapbox again.
But it's so true. And when I look at so when I was at Microsoft, I would hire in a lot of the interns. I would interview and help hire. And they're adults, but I call them kids. They're adults, but they look like children to me, half my age. And they're doing a heck of a lot more at 18, 20 years old than I was doing at that age. They're doing more than I'm doing today. Their ability to adapt to the tech is very different than ours. We didn't have those opportunities when I was growing up. 1, 2. And the other thing is like the kids are able to adapt in a different way. And I think even like Scott Hanselman brought this up, like they're not understanding the hardware and what's going into this a lot. Like we had to build we had to build stuff with our hands, and it's just a different understanding. And you're right, Lauren, it's adapting to the differences in tech. So when these kids are coming up, your 9-year-old, when they're coming into the workforce, she's going to be able to like code faster than I can because she has adapted to a different way, where I'm like, yeah, I can go build the thing and, and then do the thing. And she's like, yeah, I've already done it with my voice. Like she's going to be 10 times faster than me. But I think that's the change in tech. Like it's changing at a rapid rate. So we just have to stay relevant.
I think what's incredible there is when people make that transition, like I've gone through a lot of cloud transformations with teams and lead heavily with education up front, back to your point of just blowing their mind to begin with. There's a completely different way of working. But when you get people that have grown up with that infrastructure knowledge and how it works, and they can make that shift to infrastructure as code and pipelines as a service and embrace platform engineering concepts, it's incredible the productivity they get with that understanding. Whereas I've also had the reverse as well. People come in, all they know is the new way, and they don't know how, and then they get stuck when they're talking to a developer who's trying to do X, Y, Z, and they don't know how to handle it, given the complexity. So I think but it is interesting, just the transformation and education. And I forget who mentioned it here, but this does feel like another one of those moments where we've got to sort of relearn the operating model, how we did something before. Do we just have a bunch of templates and documents and playbooks? Well, maybe they're not necessary anymore. What can be replaced by Copilot for Azure, if I'm using the term correctly? What operational tasks do I just not need to care about anymore, so I can focus on some other things? So it's interesting for sure.
And I think so. GitHub's done a lot of good research on this, and I have the stats. I talk about these stats in a lot of my talks. Repetitive work is something that we use the phrase developer. So just bear with me as I say that, right? It bores developers. And that's why people leave jobs. Nobody left a job because they had a great manager and they were writing exciting code and doing exciting things. They got bored because their tasks were repetitive. They were burdened by being, on their heels all the time, and they had bad management. And a lot of our stats around GitHub Copilot have been the effectiveness. So not having to switch context, taking those menial tasks and automating them. I've been talking about automation for years with PowerShell, infrastructure as code. Just automate it, right? Get it out of your life. And we're finding we use the phrase developer happiness because they're actually able to write code. And that's why they became a developer. And same thing with infrastructure. If we can use Copilot in Azure, I don't even know what we're going to call it next week. I'm sure it'll change. But to do those menial tasks, the monitoring and be able to stay on top of outages, because we're always going to have outages. We're always going to have to configure things. How do we make that a more seamless process so that when you're building out infrastructure and running entire platforms, how do you be more effective in that? And that's the plan that we have today with AI, and getting people to see that's still a little, we're early doors with it, but that's my big message. People is like, learn it, stay relevant, and learn how to leverage that to be more effective. And Jeffrey Snover said it, like, automating is the best thing you can do for your career.
And I think to that point, like we've seen that ourselves so many times where somebody will say, "Oh, you're doing it this way. Why don't you do this?" Like a colleague of mine said the other day, "Hang on, I noticed you're doing a right click and then open a new tab. Why don't you just press the middle mouse button?" Like, what? Blew my mind. And what I would love is some kind of thing that just sat there. To be quite frank, it's very scary what I'm about to propose, but something that watched my keys all day, every day, and said, "Hey, I noticed you're doing this. You can do it this way," or "Hey, we can automate this." But people struggle with the briefing email from Viva Insights and Delve years ago, like, "Oh, Microsoft's spying on me." So that's one of the challenges. Is I think some people would quite comfortably give access if it was used in the right way, but I think that's almost what we need, is that daily monitoring of every single thing we're doing, because I don't know. And the thing that I try to do with my colleagues around Power BI and Power Automate, and I'm not an expert in either of those, I'm self-taught, and that means I'm doing things badly, is I try to show them what's possible to kind of get their brain to go, "Oh, next time I'm doing this, I'll think, can I automate it?" Or next time I'm pulling a CSV out and doing a manual lookup with another thing, maybe I'll go, can I create a Power BI and make a relationship between the things? And that's what I'm trying to get people to do. But what are people's other thoughts? Like, if you had something that sat and watched your clicks every day and suggested things for you.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
Can we have another
I like
5
being able
minutes?
to ask when I need help. And I think that's still the human side of it. But I do go to Copilot, and when I say Copilot, like GitHub Copilot, and I'm using the chat feature like day in and day out. I'll say, how do I do X? Now, I'm also using a lot of the beta features. So I'm looking up references to private document sets. How do I do a thing? How do I do this? Like with a GitHub standard, with documentation standards in play. So I'm looking at ways to do things and reference that. I don't have to go searching for hours now. So I'm choosing to bring in Copilot, but we're building the model off of our own private data, which I think is a great start. If it watched everything I did, I don't think anyone needs to watch what I do all day when I'm working.
What if it watched what you did, but that data never went anywhere other than for you?
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Like, I have bad habits. It's kind of like driving, right? I've been driving for 25 years. And I had to retake my driver's test when I moved to the UK. And the guy goes, "Right, how often do you drive?" I was like, 25,000 miles a year for my job at the time. And he had to break all my bad habits. I don't necessarily think I like to keep some of my bad habits, because some of my bad habits are things that are part of my neurodiversity, right? So if we start stripping that out of us, I mean, Lorraine, you said you had, I don't want to misspeak here, ADHD?
And
No.
autism, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So what if it started to auto-correct for you? And that's the problem. Like, if it's going to overcompensate, you have some superpowers built into you that make you amazing. You need to leverage that. If someone is telling me don't use your superpowers because it's not right, I think that starts reverting the inclusivity. Whereas actually we're using AI for inclusivity a lot more and more now. And I think that's the path we're on. I think we don't want to retract that, especially for like anyone that has any kind of neurodiverse requirements in their data. And I think we all do, to be honest. Like, I don't think it's not
Yeah,
rare
maybe.
anymore.
Yeah. So one of the things from a trust perspective, one of the things that we've had lots of people say to us, both inside my org when we've been deploying M365 Copilot and across clients as well, we get tons of questions about trust. And this isn't something that's spying on them. Well, not that we're saying this thing would spy, but because this is something that can give them lots of kind of insight and information. There are lots of questions about what does it have access to? Where is it getting the data from? Can people see the things that I can see? Is it capturing my prompts, and who can see that? So there's already a level of kind of fear and uncertainty and mistrust around Copilot that needs to be managed as part of that broader adoption and messaging. And then the other thing that I've observed over the last few months through some of the research that we've been doing is there are things that we can do to help people start using tools like Copilot for Microsoft 365. We can say this is how you use it in PowerPoint. We like that tech adoption stuff. But actually, when you think about what it is that we're trying to do, we're trying to help people build this Copilot muscle and to be able to bring that reflex to use these Gen AI capabilities, whether it's any of the Copilots or something else, into their normal working practices. And that's the bit where it gets interesting, because there's no one right way to do anything. Even if there's like a proven thing that's most productive and effective, actually it's not going to work for everybody, because all of us here throughout the course of our career, we've all developed working practices. And the way that we manage our time, the way that we manage our calls and our meetings and our inbox, and the way that we create and collaborate and communicate, we all do this in a different way. So when we start to bring these new capabilities into how we work, it's very personal to us. There is no one size fits all with this. So I think we just need to kind of remember that this is going to be a really personal journey for people.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you're saying, Zoe. And I'm not suggesting that it's this is the one right way, because no such thing exists. And for example, I abhor the term best practice, because I think there's recommended practice, but best is incredibly subjective. There's wrong ways and there's not wrong ways, and good ways and better ways. But I think, like, for example, we've already got Speaker Coach in Teams, and we've already got the Viva Insights Daily Digest saying, hey, you need to spend more time on this because of, you spent not enough time focusing on those kind of things. So I think if it was like an opt-in and personal, you can choose to ignore. Like, I get Speaker Coach telling me, hey, Lauren, you're talking too fast. I'm like, cool, I've got ADHD. Good luck with that. So, I think that you can choose to ignore the suggestions. I guess what I'm more saying is, if it said, did you know there's a thing? And then you have the ability to go, yeah, cool, ignore, don't suggest it again, because this way I'm doing it is for a specific reason. But if there was a way to say, hey, you're doing this, did you know if you could just ask Copilot to do that, or you could build an automation for that, or a dashboard? I think that's where I'm kind of getting to, is like an opt-in type thing.
So I can't speak for the Microsoft Copilot stuff. But what we've done, and I say the Microsoft Copilot, like any of the Microsoft products, GitHub Copilot, the customization model, we talked about the fine tuning model, and the way we measure. So that's trained on your own data. So your own company's documentations and code. And the way we train the model is through acceptance rates. So is this so if you're using GitHub Copilot and you're like tabbing through your options, like, yeah, that doesn't really work. That doesn't really work. We started using the fine-tuning model to improve acceptance rates, and acceptance rates are one of the things we're using. So very similarly, actually, the Microsoft Office team is using the fine-tuning model from GitHub Copilot to build the Office 365 Copilot, because this is inception of Copilots now. And we talked a little bit about this at Universe, of how and why they're using it, because they're coding with C++, and they want coding standards in play, but also the ability to have higher acceptance rates when building the models out. So there is capability to train the private data with acceptance rates improving, and that's going to keep transpiring over time in different forms. And I would like to see Microsoft embrace that and go, right, so you can build this model off of the standards you want and have a private model. But again, this is part of the commoditization of AI that we're doing. So there's some cool things in this space. It's scary yet cool of how it will transpire for sure. But these are early doors, right? The ability to use a model that helps you produce more effective things in your day-to-day job. I think that's the summary of Ignite and Universe, right?
But April, to your point, how much do you think enterprise customers are going to adapt these technologies, right? Like on a smaller scale, people are going to say, yeah, let's do it. But enterprise customers, which have a large footprint to begin with, and they're resistant to change, what's their appetite for this kind of thing?
So I think the customization, so just speaking from numbers at Universe, the customization talk that I gave was the highest attended talk for the stage we were on. And we had more attendees than we did on some people on the main stage. And those are some of the stats I actually got this week. And enterprise customers are absolutely looking for this, because when they're looking, let's take an enterprise customer in the FIS industry or wherever, they don't want their data necessarily trained on public models. So that's where the private model option is there. But more importantly, obscure languages. So for example, the examples we gave at Universe was AMD. They use Verlang, which is a language I've never used. It's used to build hardware. So very specific language. So there's a huge appetite for customers using for obscure languages. I have a customer that uses COBOL. And I learned that there's 3 versions of COBOL. I'm like, really? There's still 3 flavors of COBOL? So for obscure languages and even things like PowerShell, which isn't heavily open source, people absolutely have a huge appetite for this. Also for coding standards internally. But customers also have data that they can't expose. So some of the things we've done with the customization have been really great. And the fine tuning has brought about that ability to train on data, which again, may not always be perfectly great data, but it's a language that it can train the models on that you've used to deliver your hardware, your product, or your application for some time. So there are tons of enterprise customers adopting Copilot and the customization right now. And in the few talks I've given since Universe, like people are eating it up, they're ready to go. And the Microsoft teams are like, how do we get this in the hand of more customers? So the appetites are huge. And I'm not an AI specialist, but I've become one because I've adapted and grown with my career. But customers are asking for it. They love the idea of having private models and specific to their languages, specific to their doc sets, saving the time and becoming more effective with their developers.
I think I'm happy to kind of add a few bits in there, April, as well. I think looking at it from a Copilot, the OpenAI in Azure, or looking at the Power Platform kind of AI builder, things like that. I think one of the things I'm seeing is, absolutely the same as you. I'm not an AI expert, but I'm getting pulled into those conversations on a daily basis. And large enterprises absolutely are, looking at what the art of the possible is. What are those use cases specifically for themselves internally, whether it is training up on their own data sets to make their own internal employees more productive, able to find things faster, able to produce things, which is why we've got this plethora of different Copilot options and different ways to enable AI in your business. So some of the customers I work for are ISVs, they're software developers themselves, building those functionalities and features into their own product sets that they resell. Is another angle, so we're seeing this from just in the short space of time that OpenAI has kind of been around, and obviously all the good stuff across the Power Platform with AI Builder as well. It's not so much, if you're going to do it, it's when and how you're going to do it. Is it a pro dev route that you're going to build something very specifically and unique for your business? Or is it something that you're going to kind of lean over to the citizen dev world and kind of push out to all your employees almost, and, almost create the cube of this is your OpenAI with a finite trained data set on your data. This is how you use it. Fill your boots, So there's absolutely an appetite out there. Hence the investments. It's going the right way, I think, at the moment. So, yeah.
And there's also Ignite, the tour is coming back. And when I say it's coming back, I'm going to be in the Netherlands in, I think, 3 weeks. Surprise. I'm always in the Netherlands. My first home. I don't even live in the UK anymore. Microsoft's bringing Ignite around to the global area. And it's all being led with AI. Not all of it, but the different capabilities are coming out. And there's going to be a lot of those announcements coming locally. So Christina, and for those of you that missed getting to Redmond, have a look at the next local Ignite event near you. I believe Netherlands in December and Greece, of all places. I pass. I don't make these decisions. I just show up and talk about AI now. But yeah, they're Ignite the Tour. They're litmus testing Ignite the Tour again. For that very reason, to get in front of people again, to bring that experience away from Redmond and Seattle and San Fran and all the places we're going. So, yeah, I would say watch the space. We're trying to come to a location near you and litmus test it. So the more people that attend, the more involvement, more engagement, the more cities we can bring this to.
I guess it's worth mentioning that you can also win tickets for the next Ignite or build with the Cloud Skills Challenge. And surprise, surprise, the modules are about AI and Copilot, most of them. So this is kind of 2-for-1 opportunity as well. So I think that was kind of cool thing to do.
There's a question in the chat about Ignite in Oz. Microsoft Build AI Day is coming to Australia in February. I want to say it's the 9th. And I only know this because I declined going this week effectively. I was supposed to go and I
take that personally, April.
Well, there's only one of me. Until you can clone me. I can't.
And you're in the Netherlands.
I'm actually going to Austria instead of Australia. Yeah, this time I've chosen Austria. But yeah, I'm pretty much in the Netherlands all the time these days. But yeah, though it's they're bringing Build AI Day to Oz. I'm not sure about Ignite, and I only say I don't know yet because I think they're testing out Europe first. Yeah. AI cloning. Yeah, I'm gonna AI clone. I already have like AI me's up on the internet these days.
I actually tried to I got into the preview for custom neural voice in Azure because what I was trying to do was through my Home Assistant platform, basically have reminders for the kids come out in my voice, depending on it. So yeah, because they can hear a reminder going off. They're using like, one of the generic, Azure female voice, male voice, whatever, saying, get off your device or whatever, and they'd ignore it. So I thought, I'm going to try my voice. But the problem is that the model is so expensive, even when it's not being used, that, I just burnt through my Azure credit in like not even 3 weeks. So I had to delete it, which is really disappointing. But yeah.
There's another service you can use. It's not on the Microsoft landscape. I've actually seen it being used for YouTube videos. It's a little scary, but yeah, there's some other third-party services out there you can use.
Yeah, I'm just a bit wary of the going back to your point about trust.
Trust, yeah. Like I said,
because I trust it.
Yeah. I didn't say it was going to be a good option. I just said it's feasible.
All right.
And anybody's seen the most recent series of Black Mirror, right? I suppose that's a UK show. I think there was an episode where they had AI generated video and audio with all famous people.
Brilliant episode.
That's just such a dystopian episode that you're leaning on that one slightly there.
That was a freaky episode.
Yeah, but it's running local in Home Assistant, so it's me
controlling for now. And AI will find a way to break through your network and send it up to GitHub and store it in some repo.
At that point, the AI will remember that when I used to have Alexa and it would say things to me when I ask a question, I would say thank you afterwards. So
there we go.
I'm a friend. I can be a pet.
Unfortunately, you got to program it into the final thank you words. Yeah, all for nothing.
All right. Well, on a thank you note, seriously, I know there's a bunch of you that are all different time zones. This is way past some folks' bedtime. Thank you all for this. Really, this is a great, fantastic chat. Any parting comments, like a quick 30-second round from each one of you? Let's start with John.
No, do you know what, Chris? Only parting comment from me is thanks. It's good to see everybody on here. Really enjoy being part of these sessions. Maybe you guys need to think about doing these more regular. I think it's a good chance to kind of catch up and get it's a great kind of cross-platform thing going on. Pick out the salient points from every area and let's run with it. But no, look, really enjoyed being on. Thanks for having me. Catch up with you all soon.
Yeah, thank you. Love that feedback. Love the idea. Christina.
Yeah, I would totally agree with John. I think it's great to do it on a regular basis, and I think that's a cool way to kind of do a recap with some of the personal highlights. I think it makes it a bit more special and relatable than just going through the book of news itself, for instance. So thanks for inviting me. It has been a great chat, and it was great seeing all of you today.
Awesome. Lorian.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine short, contrary to what I've been doing most of this stream. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone tolerating me. And yeah, it has been good to be able to talk and also learn from others. So thank you.
Nick.
Yeah, same. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Definitely learned a lot from this chat as well, and wrote down a few things I need to go and Google up and other sessions from GitHub and Ignite to go and watch as well. And I think, as Christina said, it's really interesting everyone's different perspective and the areas they focused on at Ignite and what they took away. So yeah, really excited to be here, and thank you.
Thank you. April.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for hosting this. This was great. It's good to actually catch up with everyone. Everyone here had really good insights on different areas at Ignite. So I enjoyed that. And I think everyone just needs to stay relevant, right? That's my, and we kept Kevin entertained. So Kevin, I'm glad we could keep you entertained and happy on your at Schiphol Airport, which is one of the worst airports in the world. I can attest to that. But no, it's great to see Zoe and Nick. Nick, can you bring your wife next time? Thanks, please.
Yeah, sure.
But I enjoy hanging out with everyone. So
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe.
Just a huge thank you for inviting me to join. I think it's been really great just to go through some of the stuff from Ignite. One of the things that I've really enjoyed is actually getting out of my comfort zone and learning from people who sit in other parts of the tech ecosystem. So huge thank you. Thanks for having me, and really good to spend the last hour or so with all of you.
Beautiful. Thank you all, and appreciate the feedback. Yeah, I mean, Abdul and I think we've been scheming. We were trying to do this a little bit more frequently. So this is right on course. So thank you all. Thank you to our viewers. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. To anybody who's watching this later too, please, subscribe if you like what you see. Smash that subscribe button. Love to have you all back again. I know some of you have been repeat offenders, but we love having you back that much. So I'm sure we're going to do this more often than not. So with that said, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Come Cloud with Us. Have a great one.
Thanks, everybody.
Here's all.